Hello, I'm Katie Harrison and this is Stepmum Space, where each episode we'll talk candidly about the fairy tales and the scary tales of stepmum life. So whether you've been a stepmum for years, you're just starting out, or you want to understand the stepmum in your life a little bit better, this is the place for you. My guest today is Mia. Now, Mia is an absolutely incredible woman. Before becoming a stepmum, she had worked for many years both in education and as a professional nanny. Mia's story really touched me. She is somebody who loves children and was excited to have extra children in her life. And you'll find this shines through in this conversation. I hope you enjoy it. So Mia, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
So you and I have been sort of messaging each other for a little while now, haven't we? Which has been really nice. So I feel like I know a little bit about you already.
Some snippets here and there.
Some snippets. So why don't you fill everybody in on your family?
Well, I met my now husband in 2013. We actually met online via a dating app, and he lived in the next village.
Wow.
So, having lived all over the world, I came home and met the man next door, almost.
Oh.
That was amazing, absolutely amazing. I fell completely head over heels from our first date, really, which at 46 was quite unexpected. He'd been divorced for around 5 years and is the father of 2 boys. At that age, they were 8 and 12.
How often were they with him?
50-50.
So how was it when you met the kids?
Well, we took it a little while. I was in quite an unusual situation that I was living and working within an environment where I had very little time off. So when we very first met, we spent a lot of time together very quickly, but not with the boys involved. And then it wasn't till sort of mid-October, so that was from August through to mid-October, that I actually had an opportunity to meet them during their half term. And I was incredibly nervous. I remember parking up at the end of the street and sort of giving myself a little talking to about how important this was, but not to get too stressed about it. And
which in itself sounds like such a difficult one. Like, this is so important, Mia, but don't worry about it.
Absolutely. Just sort of put that in context slightly. I've spent my career, my whole adult life, taking care of other people's children. Invariably, that has led to loving, engaging relationships with them as little children, growing through to teenage years, and for some of them into adulthood. My first turned 36 this week, which traumatized me slightly. But
I'm looking at you on screen thinking, hang on a minute, I'm not bad at maths, but you don't look old enough to have been working with people who are now 36.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind. No, I certainly am. I had a lovely, lovely long career working as a private nanny for different families throughout the UK and overseas. And I've also worked in education. So I've had a lot of experience around children aged from newborn up to 18 in lots of different roles. And I came into this relationship with the boys thinking, I've got a bit of a head start here. I sort of know how to handle kids. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
To some extent, that has caused issues. It's definitely caused issues with my husband and myself, because I very much have I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm saying makes sense. I can see the bigger picture when it comes to parenting decisions. And especially in the early days, the whole you're making a rod for your own back by giving in to absolutely everything and being the wonderful father that he is in many, many ways. But that would often make him feel that I was judging him on his parental style. And he's probably right. I was because and it's I'm ashamed of it now, but because that's what I've done my whole adult life. I've taken care of other people's children, and I've given parents advice which has always been asked for and valued and appreciated. So it was weird for that not to be quite so sort of open to, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess especially as this is your life partner and you care about these children in a different way because you know they're going to be in your life forever. So it must have been really challenging to kind of come up against a little bit of a wall with your advice?
Yeah, I mean, my husband's wonderful, absolutely amazing, and we got married in 2017, and our life together, I'm just so happy with him, and we have an amazing time, and the boys are very much in his heart. Almost everything he does is in their best interests. But there are certain things over the years that he has made a decision on as a parent that fall definitely into the category of like, oh, I wish you didn't do that, because I can see down the line that might have that implication. But I've recognized now that I need to sort of step back and let them make those decisions, and however things turn out. And this is a very new thing, that however things turn out, it's not my responsibility and it's not my fault.
That's a really hard one though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the boys must be kind of late teens now.
Yes, in fact, the eldest is now 20. He's away at university, and the youngest is just coming up to 17.
When you met, you said your husband sort of had them 50-50. Did that 50-50 stay until kind of currently?
It stayed until COVID hit. Unfortunately, I had a cancer diagnosis. So when COVID hit, I had to shield. And the boys and my husband and their mum all decided that it was better if the boys stayed at her house and dad go and meet them for a walk or a, socially distanced kick a football around the park kind of thing. It seemed like a sensible thing to do, but it set the precedent. And when COVID restrictions lifted, the boys decided that they wanted to continue staying at mum's.
That must have been difficult for you.
Really difficult to see how much it hurt my husband, massively. And the eldest is now at university, and he's been away for 2 years. So for him, it wasn't that much of a change. It was going to happen. He wasn't going to be around much. And we actually see quite a lot of him. We go down to London whenever possible. I was there last weekend. We take him out for lunch. We give him some extra spends for the supermarket shop. And, it's all lovely. The younger one, my husband hardly sees anything of at all unless he is asked to give a lift.
So prior to COVID, you had both stepsons coming round 50-50. And then obviously since COVID, it sounds like that things have really changed with the younger boy. Was there anything else driving that, do you think?
I think they've always found the two homes quite different. Mum has a partner that lives with them there. So they've got 4 adults in their lives, and that all 4 of us are on a scale. So you've got me at one end, who is very firm on boundaries, rules, expectations of table manners, and put your own plate in the dishwasher type of thing, and respect, etc. My husband, who also believes in appropriate behaviour, but probably not as much as me. And then his ex, who is a little bit more relaxed and prefers to do everything for them, and her partner, who is very much hands-off, lovely gentleman, but he's got 4 children of his own, and he, quite frankly, didn't need to take on an additional parenting role with them. So in terms of the 2 households, I think it's always been an easier mood for them at mum's, because there isn't that expectation that they, at 15, strip their own bed and put their washing in the machine, or say thank you for a lift, or that kind of thing.
I think it's so important that as parents, biological step, whatever, you're helping to raise adults, and those adults need to function, which means they need to learn how to do this stuff.
Yep.
You mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, when you first met your husband, he had been separated or divorced 5 years. So when you came into their life, did things start to change around the home for them?
Not a huge amount, certainly not in the first 6 months. It was probably 6 months later that the big change came for all of us. And at that point, I moved into the home, and it's the family home that the boys had always been with. And I think the boys then realised that I did have different expectations, and I probably wasn't as gentle with those things as probably I should have been, because I had, in all my other roles around children, yes, they've laid the table, or they've helped clear their mess at the end of the day, that kind of thing. And that's with my professional head on. And I just automatically assumed that would be appropriate within this role. And it may have been, but it wasn't necessarily something that everybody was comfortable with me being bossy about, let's say.
And I mean, it's interesting you use the word bossy.
That's what they would call it. I don't. I call it being appropriate with my expectations.
Yeah, and so would I as well. And I think we all have an expectation to live in a family where everybody chips in. And, you know, there's probably people screaming at their phone or their radio or whatever they're listening on now that, you know, I'm really harsh, but I'll make my 4 and 5-year-old carry their plates to the dishwasher. My view really is they're old enough to get a toy out of a box, they're old enough to put it back in a box.
Yep. And as a professional, I would say that every 2-year-old I've ever taken care of has been able to set the table. So there's no reason why they can't clear it as well.
And I think the more you kind of instill that at an early age, the easier it is.
Yes, I mean, I have tried to very much encourage them as far as sort of learning life skills in the kitchen for themselves. They were very reluctant to engage with that. But I did spend a long time helping eldest to get through his food science GCSE by helping him learn how to cook his 3-course meal for the final presentation. And that was literally every single day for 5 days of half term. We refined and we practiced and we did. And that's just sort of one way in that I felt that I was fulfilling my stepmum role. I felt that this was something that a parent should do. And it's apparent that I love cooking and I love working with children, and I wanted to support him. So for me, it was a great week. It was lovely. He got his GCSE in food and food technology, and that was a win. And I don't think he touched anything in the kitchen since until he went off to university.
But was he grateful at the time for your support?
I think rather understatedly, he was grateful. My husband was extremely grateful, and he actually surprised me with a trip to Paris a couple of months later to say thank you for all the work I'd done helping him with his GCSEs. The grandparents were grateful, and Mum also had said thank you for everything I did. Mum is very open to me being involved with the boys. I've been very, very lucky in that, I know, not just from listening to some of your previous podcast guests. I know I'm extremely lucky, and that's down to my husband working really hard on his relationship with her after their divorce.
That's really good, and I guess makes things a lot less confrontational in terms of how your home is.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to go back to something you said earlier, which was about your husband feeling that you were judging his parenting skills, and perhaps you said you were. How did that pan out with the two of you?
I tried to be less vocal, less judgmental, but I couldn't resist from making suggestions here and there. But that's the type of person I am. If I can see somebody that's doing something that could be done in a slightly more advantageous way, I would always want to let them know of their options. And I think I started to show it as, or you could consider this, rather than you should be doing it like that. And that has definitely improved. My husband is absolutely wonderful. He has very much a tendency to want to keep everybody happy. And he's often said that when I've been in conflict, especially with the younger one. He's actually said to both of us, not at the same time, but I've overheard not only one conversation, but many conversations where he's sort of said, I'm just trying to keep the peace and keep everyone happy. So can you compromise and she'll compromise and that kind of thing. And so it's very much that he wants everybody to be as comfortable as possible without him actually doing any of the negative stuff.
You hear a lot that the dad kind of feels so torn in the middle and is just desperately wanting everybody to be happy around them. But I feel like sometimes by not having this more difficult conversations, dad actually creates a worse situation.
There's been a lot of occasions over the years where when the boys were in their early teens, if I would ask one of them to, could you come and set the table, please? We're about to have dinner. And, from my perspective, it's, I've been at work all day. you're 14 years old, but I've come in and made dinner while you lie on the sofa. The least you could do is set the table. And that's sort of an undercurrent unsaid every single day they were there. I'd ask one of them to set the table, and every single day it would be a negotiation. So my husband's response to that, if he was there at that time, would be he would set the table. Because so then he felt that the table was being set and that was what I wanted, and the boys weren't inconvenienced.
See, that would have really irritated me.
At times it has done, yes, I'm not going to lie. But that happens much, much less now that they're older, because they actually do those things occasionally. Never spontaneously, ever if they set the table. But they will do it now without there being an issue about it. There'll be no more arguments. It'll just get done. And it's only a little thing. And, as my husband says, it doesn't really matter as long as the tables get set, in his opinion.
I like how you added on the end, in his opinion. You were talking earlier about when you moved in together, and you said you'd moved into their family home, I think was the word you used. How was that for you?
It was quite weird, and it still feels to me like his home, not necessarily our home, which he would get upset if he heard me say that, he being my husband, because he has actually gone out of his way to make sure that I felt that it was my home from the beginning, that we did a bit of redecorating, and I've had input on choices of furniture and decorations and all that kind of thing. And there are definitely elements of me around the house, but the fact that it's always referred to as Dad's house rather than Dad and Mia's house is one of those things that is just like, yeah, it's not my home. But I can understand that, because the boys, were very, very young when their parents split, and this is the home that Dad had. So
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because for some people it seems so practical, and then for other people it's much more tricky.
It's one of those things that the village in which we live, it's a beautiful village, and the boys were in primary school here, and their secondary school is just a short school bus journey away. Mum lives about 15 minutes away. I remember once she came to collect them for something. Normally my husband does all the to-ing and fro-ing, but she came to pick them up and they hadn't finished lunch, and she came into the house and sat down at the dining table while we finished lunch.
How was that?
Oh, hasn't happened again. I think we all felt slightly uncomfortable with that one. But she's absolutely fine. I've got no issues at all with her on the doorstep exchanging pleasantries. I'll drop her a text here and there, and she will definitely respond in kind. I had a cancer diagnosis the year after we got married, and she was very supportive during that, and said whatever extra help I needed to let her know, and if she could have the boys extra or anything like that. So she's been very supportive about all kinds of things. So I've got no issues. I'm very lucky, no issues at all with the ex.
How are you doing now?
I'm in remission. I'm good, thank you very much.
That's brilliant to hear that you're in remission. It must have been a really, really difficult time to go from sort of newlywed bliss to suddenly something so difficult as that.
Yeah, we actually got my diagnosis the week before our first anniversary. So it was like, yes. And then I spent the next 18 months going through surgeries and treatment and things. One thing that is worthy of note within this context with the boys is that I felt it was really important that they hear from me that I had breast cancer, and that I could answer any questions they had, and that they felt they could be open and talk about. I didn't want it to be a secret, and didn't want them to only hear about it from their mum or their grandparents. So we sat them down individually and told them, and that went okay. Both of them, the first response was, "Does this mean you can't give me a lift anymore?"
Oh, Mia.
The second one followed it up with, "Will you still be able to cook for us?"
There's just such a lack of empathy or anything there.
I think that's the crux of it. And that's probably one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you, to say that for me, it's been incredibly hard finding the difference between the loving, engaging relationships I've had with other children in my life, who have been children that I've known for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, when I was looking after them, to the relationship I have with my stepsons, where, we're perfectly friendly and polite, and, well, not always polite because they are teenage boys, but they're fine. And I feel like in a lot of ways I've had it lucky, very little to compare compared to other families. But I really feel at times that I failed as a stepmom because they don't love or appreciate me. And yet I've been in so many jobs where I have looked after children who I love and they love me back. And I've just now reached the point where I'm accepting that they don't have to love me. And it sounds really silly, but I heard it on one of your podcasts. I fell in love with their dad and he fell in love with me, and they don't have to love me. There isn't an emotional engagement with them. And that is what makes me absolutely weep. It really does.
And especially because you're clearly somebody who cares so much about children and went into it wanting that really positive relationship like you'd had with other children in your life.
That's right. And I'd always dreamed of having my own children. For various reasons, it just didn't happen. And by the time my husband and I met, I was 46. And we felt that it was too late in the game to try. He had 2 boys of his own, and I could take on the role of stepmom and make do with that. So I think that's where the ouchies start, really.
Yeah, I think all of those things that you've just referenced make it a lot harder because you want it so bad. You want that relationship with them so badly.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had your cancer diagnosis in 2018, and obviously when you told the boys, they were, let's say, less than understanding. As time went by, did they become more caring of you in that situation?
It was quite interesting, actually, because the eldest is a young man who I'd say I've always had a better relationship with. He's very sensitive, but not given to expressing any emotions. He decided that he would grow his hair and then shave it off after a year to donate to cancer charity. Oh. So that's like a little, which was lovely. It was absolutely lovely, and a little thing that he did that he obviously it never occurred to him to do before. The younger one would ask lots of questions about, what treatment are you having and how are you now? And it was in the moment, that was the time when they did ask anything. I sort of tried to keep a very positive spin on things, and I had a very good diagnosis. It was a very early diagnosis. So really reassured them that there was lots of hope that there'd be a positive outcome.
And sweet that your eldest stepson grew his hair. And, sometimes actions just mean more than words, don't they? He's obviously doing something in the background to try and really show his support for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, yes, there have been snippets of things here and there through the last 8 years. But I think it's just if I went and sat on the sofa next to the youngest one, he would probably move away. He's not at all tactile with anyone, and I'm extremely tactile. So there isn't a single occasion where he's put his hand on my arm as he's walked past, or allowed me to give him a hug or anything like that. And I'm a great believer in letting children have autonomy over their own bodies, and I wouldn't ever force hugs and kisses on any teenager, well, anyone. But it's very much in photographs you can see there's always a gap between us, or he'll choose to stand at dad's side and lean into dad rather than me. He will greet his dad with a hug, or and say goodbye with a hug, that kind of thing, and his grandfather as well. The older one is now more worldly wise and will lean in for a hug rather than just stand there. But there'd never be an instigation from either of them for any kind of contact.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because like you were saying earlier, their mum's sounds like really positive about you, and there's been nothing to prevent them going there.
No, and mum has a relationship already before I came along. So, I wasn't involved in the breakup or divorce or anything like that. I came years after. I think when we announced our engagement, we sort of sat down and told the boys, and I was heartbroken when the eldest burst into tears and left the room, because he found it such a shock. And yet I'd been living with them for 2 years at that point. And he said to his dad later, I don't know why I'm so upset about it. And, the many, many emotions that it brings up. But that sort of took me by surprise because I thought he was the one that liked me. So again, it wasn't about me per se, was it?
And that's the thing, it's so hard. Like, I remember talking to somebody in my situation saying, like, it's so difficult when you know that your joy causes somebody else pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's somebody else that you care about, but there's nothing that you can do about it. That announcement that you're so happy about can be so upsetting for somebody else. I think it's just when it, like you were saying, when it really takes you by surprise, and that's really hurtful because you want people to be excited. It's your big news.
So we ended up going overseas and getting married, just the two of us, so that I didn't have to deal with the emotional boys on the day. And for other reasons as well. We wanted an awesome honeymoon, and we had an amazing wedding. And then came back and had a reception back in the UK with everybody, and the boys were very much involved with that.
You're going to have to tell us where you went on honeymoon.
So we got married in the Seychelles, which was amazing. And then we went on safari in Africa.
Oh, it's like the dream. Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
How were the boys then when you told them that you were getting married abroad?
They were okay. We told them that we were doing that and we were having the party back here in the UK that they would be there for, and they both wanted to know if there was going to be a chocolate fountain. There wasn't, much to their disappointment. But they'd never been to a wedding, even at that age, so they didn't really have any concept of what real life weddings and things were like, and they were used to us going off on holiday anyway. So from their perspective, the actual wedding itself didn't really factor. I think the day of the reception, because we wore our wedding clothes again, so I got 2 days out of my wedding outfit.
Well done.
But yes, the reception was quite interesting because they're very much sort of sat with their grandparents, my husband's parents, and didn't really interact with anybody else at all, whereas all our other friends and family, and of course lots of children, because there are many children in my life, were all there and that kind of thing. So they were fine on the day, and my only request to them was whatever they wore, could it please not be trackies and ripped jeans. And they both looked very smart. Dad had bought them very nice outfits and they looked absolutely lovely. So there was no issues at all there.
You must have felt quite nervous in the run up to it, given their reaction.
Well, we had 18 months engagement because we had to save up for the massive honeymoon. So they had a long time to get used to the idea. And I think once they realised nothing was really going to change for them, because I lived with them anyway, they became okay with it.
One thing you were talking about earlier that was really interesting was around conflict, and how in your house often you had expectations of the kids which didn't necessarily meet their expectations of what they thought they should do. And you talked about arguments. Have you got any tips as a professional for stepmoms listening who might be in a similar boat and might want to sort of resolve some of those conflicts or set some of those expectations for their stepchildren without World War III breaking out each time?
Well, I've given lots of advice, asked for advice to parents, whether it be professionally or friends who have become parents. And I was unable to set these things in place because I wasn't in charge. Dad's in charge in our house as far as the boys were concerned. So if I would ask them to do something or suggest something that's been done, they would either not do it or they would whinge about it. So my advice as a professional would be to, first of all, pick your battles. Secondly, have the conversation with the children about all the things that happen within the home, all the jobs that get done, and ask them which ones they want to do. And it's very much the washing or the shopping or the cleaning or the cooking or the making the house nice, all the different things. And if you actually put down a list of all the jobs that get done, then let the children make a choice. And obviously it depends on their age as to what they're able to do. But starting it off when they're as young as possible would always be my advice, and take it from there. And then it's more of we're doing this together, so that we've got more free time as a family to do the fun stuff. That's a tactic I did use very successfully with the boys when they wanted lifts to places. So they would come to me and say, can I have a lift into town? Can I have a lift to see a friend? And I'd say, yeah, absolutely. Where are we going? They'd tell me. I'm like, okay, so that'll take 20 minutes. So it'll take me 20 minutes to get you there, 20 minutes back, 40 minutes. Right. So could you do something for me that's going to give me back those 40 minutes that I've spent on giving you a lift? So can you just run the vacuum round while I finish making dinner, and then I'll be able to give you a lift? So I made it into a trade that if they wanted something, and of course I would always have given them a lift, but by making it into you want me to do something for you, then what are you going to do for the family or for the home that's going to make a difference to my day?
And I think sometimes kids don't see that stuff. Like, they don't realise. Sometimes I think kids are guilty of just thinking, the fridge magically gets restocked and everything just magically sort of happens. So I love your idea of saying to them, okay, it's going to take me 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, that's 40 minutes. I'm going to lose 40 minutes. What are you going to do for me? That feels like a really good way to talk to a child in a grown-up way.
Yeah, and that really worked with them very efficiently. And the younger one in particular now knows, although they're not with us at the house as much, but he now knows that if he comes to me asking for me to give him some time to do something, which is usually lifts, then there will be a trade-off. And while he hasn't wised up to saying, I'll just run the vacuum round and then asks for the lift, he still, hedges his bets just in case. But it's no surprise to them that there's a trade involved. And I think that's a very healthy trade. And I use that as a way of them being a little bit more respectful to me, whether they really are respectful or not, but I feel more respected than.
And also, you're all living in this home together. You all have to pitch in. Like, that's my favourite saying. I'm forever saying, come on, we all have to pitch in. And I think the children sort of look at me and they think, we're fighting a losing battle, we might as well just get on with it.
Yeah, and yes, absolutely, that's what you can do as a biological parent, but and also as a professional, I could absolutely ask children to do things and they did them. But as a stepmom, when dad's around, they don't see me as an authority at all. But when dad's not there, I could say, can you just go and do this? Not that I spend all my time asking them to do things, but for purposes of this conversation, I'd sort of say, could you take that upstairs with you on your way past rather than just climb over it? And that kind of thing.
Which actually takes more effort. I always wonder why people do that.
Yes, there's a big laundry basket at the bottom of the stairs. Can you get past it? No, lift it up. So I'll sort of say, could you take it with you when you go upstairs? And they'll do that if I ask. They don't see it themselves. And I know that's not a step parent thing. And that's every parent in every home, I believe. They definitely listened to me more when my husband wasn't around than when he was, which was really weird for me, really weird. As I said earlier, I've only recently come to the realization that I haven't failed as a step parent just because they don't love me or show their appreciation for something. I'm not their choice. The place I'm in now is that it's okay to step back and prioritize my relationship with my husband rather than let any conflict that's arising between the boys be our touch point.
100%. And I hate that so many women, including yourself, and I mean I've had it as well, so I'm not judging, feel like you failed because it's so hard. And we don't always get it right, but we're always trying. I think we're so desperate to get it right, which is why it hurts such a lot when we feel we haven't.
Yeah, I mean, all the things that I've done over the last 8 years for the boys, I don't regret any of it. Not a thing, not a moment spent, not an hour-long drive to London because someone needed something that they'd left behind. Nothing. I don't regret any of that. But I'm now learning to be content with stepping back from that role. I think one of the tricky bits is that I'm the organised one in all of this scenario. I've always got everyone's passport details or their NHS number, and I know what jabs the boys have had. Even though I wasn't the one to take them for those jabs, I actually wrote them down from the NHS thing in a little folder. I've got useful things boys need to know.
I mean, everyone needs a Mia in their life.
Absolutely. And that's where the professional side of things helps, because that's the kind of role I took on, in that I was the sort of project manager of households for children and families. So now I'm at the point where I can see that things need addressing, and rather than just doing them automatically, as I have done up until now, I'll flag them up to the mum or dad. For example, I knew the boys' European health cards had expired, and mum's taken them both away this summer. And I was quite confident she hadn't given it a thought. So I just sent her a text always with the prefix of, I hope you don't think I'm stepping on your toes. Sorry if you think I'm overstretching here, but just to flag up that you'll need to apply for some more cards for the boys to go away this summer.
And presumably from what you've said, she finds that helpful because she's a normal, nice person.
Yes, and she has over the years. She's asked me to do things. Like, she professes not to be able to know how to sew, so I would always turn the boys' trousers up for the new start of term, that kind of thing. So she's always been quite happy to outsource all kinds of mundane jobs and that kind of thing. And that's fine, because as I said, I'm very comfortable with things that I've done, and I don't regret them. But now I'm in a place where I need to stop beating myself up that however much I've given of myself and of my time and my efforts and my love and my energy, it's not made a difference. And if now at nearly 17 and nearly 21, they are still not referring to me as stepmum, but just dad's wife, then that's I've got to accept that I'm not going to make any big changes.
I can hear from you that's quite painful.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'd always dreamed of having my own children. I spent my whole life waiting for my own, and I felt that when I met my husband and he had 2 boys, that I've got the closest thing. I've got the next best thing. But in fact, the next best thing to having my own children are the relationships I've got with children that I've cared for over the years. The fact that I've been chief guest at weddings and christenings and birthday parties throughout the years for children who are now adults is just, they talk of me to me with love and affection, and I know that I'm appreciated by them. And yeah, it's a shame I haven't got that relationship with the boys, but it's not their fault at the end of the day, and that's what I'm trying to come to terms with. It's not their fault, and it's not my fault. And I haven't failed just because they don't love me.
You definitely haven't. Love's a gradient, right? You don't go and grow your hair and then shave it off for charity for somebody that you don't really, really care for. So I'm sure that there's a lot going on for your stepson. But importantly, I'm really glad that you've started to just prioritize yourself and say, do you know what? I matter. I've done my best. I'm going to concentrate on my relationship with my wonderful husband and enjoy your life. You deserve it.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Well, look, thank you so, so much for talking to me today. I have loved it, and I need to find out if you live anywhere near me so you can come to my house.
You're very welcome, and it's been absolutely lovely talking to you, and I've teared up quite a few times, and saying these things out loud has been quite therapeutic for me. So thank you for giving all of us this opportunity.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's my absolute pleasure. Oh, I loved talking with Mia so much. Apart from wanting to just bring her home with me, I could empathise with so much of what she was saying. Most stepmums are always trying. Like all parents, we don't always get it right, but we do try to do the right thing by our kids, our partner, the ex. But all this trying for others can often leave ourselves at the bottom of the pile. And being curled up in a ball at the bottom is not a good place to be. So remember, you matter. You can't wave a wand and make everything better. You cannot hit the blend button and come out with a smooth, perfect family. It is a continuous work in progress. And if you're not in a good place yourself, then you can't be in a good place for anyone. So please, please take that time for yourself. Prioritise what you need and prioritise your relationship. And remember, there's a whole lot of women listening to this who have got your back. You can connect with them on our website at www.stepmumspace.com. And as always, if you've got a story you'd like to share, please do get in touch. You can contact me via the website or on Instagram at stepmumspace. Finally, if you've enjoyed the show, please do rate and review, as it helps other women find us. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. See you next time.